Hey everyone, and welcome to the fifth episode of Meet the Taco Plebs. This week's guest is Stacker of the North, aka Berlelund. He is yet another Zoomer to be featured on this series, and I wanted to bring him on because I've known him for about a year now. He's in my group of 9 other Zoomer friends that I constantly talk with, and he's a very educated person. We have a lot of the same views, and I think you should all follow him on Twitter and get to know him better. He's a humble, stat-stacking pleb who is going to do very, very well in life. So without further ado, here's the interview. Hey Berla, welcome to the show. And I just said your name wrong again.
Thank you. That's all right. Everyone does that when you're not from my country.
It's I've known you for I don't even know a year now or however many months.
I think you're screaming out of it.
I constantly pronounce your name wrong, and then even in my phone when I type your name, it autocorrects it to the wrong spelling.
Yeah, but as I said, everyone does that, so I'm used to it.
So let's just jump right into it. What's your rabbit hole story? How did you find Bitcoin?
Yeah, see, I've asked myself this before, and I don't really know. It came about that I watched like The Big Short, and basically I just hated the legacy system, financial system. So somehow I pressed on a video on YouTube, which is like Bitcoin explained for you. So that was like my main first time I found out about Bitcoin. And then after that, I started going down the rabbit hole of finding the anarcho-capitalists, and I was just hooked. But then I started in my shitcoin phase, which I'm not very proud of, but I think everyone has to go through it. And then it took me like a year where I was like, oh, come on, this coin is going to pump and let's go. But it never did. And then I was like, okay, fuck this. I'm just going to stick to Bitcoin. And that took me like a year. And now for 2 years, I've been a max.
That's nice. Yeah, I've definitely gone through my shitcoining phase, and I think mine was about a year, similar to yours. But one thing, this might trigger a bunch of people, but I've actually never seen The Big Short.
Oh my god. Why?
I've seen so many people talk about it on Twitter, and I've yet to watch it.
I love it. I've seen it multiple times.
What's it even about?
It's about how fucked up the system was in 2008, about the great financial crisis, and how bankers just don't care about anyone but make money. And that's it's the system they're in. We know that, but it's great to get new people hating the legacy system. It's great film for that, because I didn't know anything about Bitcoin, and I was red pilled on the financial system back then.
Do you think the majority of people who watch that movie start to get red pilled through that, or do you think, oh, it's just a movie, they're probably exaggerating, or
I'm actually afraid that some people who have the socialists mentality will watch that movie and think, oh, capitalism has done this to our world. Capitalism has made people just don't care about other people, and they fucked up the economy and shit like that. But that's definitely not how I viewed it.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I really can't stand when people blame everything that's going on capitalism. Socialists will blame the stupidest things on capitalism that doesn't even make sense. I remember when coronavirus started happening and everyone started buying everything in the grocery stores, and there was nothing on the shelves. I remember some girl took a picture of the shelves empty, and she was like, look what capitalism has done. This is terrible. What? How is that? That doesn't even make sense.
I completely agree. The people who said I've seen articles in I don't know, New York. I'm just New York Times. I think it was coronavirus shows us why we need a socialist system, because capitalism cannot function. And it's just like, how can you say that the pandemic is the reason? Like, it shows us how capitalism cannot work when it has been the system that's made sure that we have food right now, even in a pandemic. Like, everyone is surviving. Not people who have corona, but all our other people have like the basic needs met even in a pandemic.
If we would have gone into this pandemic during a socialist regime, we would have been fucked really bad.
People who have corona cannot go to the hospital. There's not enough room. There's like, that would have been bad. Not enough food. Oh my god.
One of the things, like going back to that girl's tweet, like she says, "Oh, capitalism is to blame for this." It's like, how is that to blame for people buying food? If that was under socialism, it would take weeks or months to get those shelves restocked. Whereas capitalism, next week they're back.
Like in the socialist countries, we've seen this historically. There has not been any choice. There's not been anything on the shelves, even when there's not a pandemic. So it's like, the only reason that there is anything on the shelf is because of capitalism. It infuriates me that people like.
Go ahead.
That. It just infuriates me that people see it as that. Like.
Yeah. So, were you aware of capitalism, socialism, like all this stuff before you got into Bitcoin? I know when I was younger in high school and I first got into Bitcoin, I was so uneducated. I didn't know like anything. Like if you were to tell me socialism is good, I probably would have believed it.
Yeah, I live in a country which is basically socialism, but my family has always been quite like on the right leaning, right? So I've always had like, the state should not be too big, and like I should not get too much support from the state and all this. So I've always been like in favor of the market, but I've lived in a system where we praise our social programs from the government. So I've always seen that the society can only function if there's a market, but the state has to take care of like the vulnerable people in society. But then Bitcoin has showed me that government has absolutely nothing to do in this world, and they should just burn up in hell.
I agree with it. So it sounds like you've learned a lot. How has Bitcoin changed your life personally?
Oh, it's definitely made me lower time preference. That's my big thing. Like, I've always been one to save money, but I've just never like really understood why I did that, and what like I needed a term to put on it and say I'm low time preference. Like, I think about the future, I save for the future. So that has absolutely made me aware of this amazing term, which I learned through the Bitcoin Standard, a great book. And after that, when I could realize that actually it's great to be low time preference, it's actually what builds society, that I've taken it like, okay, I can actually be proud of this. I should actually thrive to be more lower time preference. And that has absolutely been the biggest change for me.
I like that. I like how you noticed that living low time preference allows you to accumulate capital and then therefore help build society up. Like, it's so simple, but it's so complex at the same time. I remember when I first read the Bitcoin Standard, and I learned what low time preference meant on Bitcoin Twitter. It was like, how did I not think of this before? It's so obvious.
Yeah, absolutely.
I used to be a kid who I always liked the idea of saving, but whenever I saved up a decent amount of money, I was always quick to spend it on something expensive and shiny, or like, oh, this is cool. Like, all my friends are gonna think I'm so cool, or like, I'm gonna have so much fun with this, blah blah blah. but Bitcoin just completely changes it.
Completely. Like, it transformed it to see like, okay, it's actually not cool to have the new gadgets. It's cooler to have more satoshis. Like, I'd rather stack satoshis than buying a new watch or whatever people do with their money.
I remember when I was a kid, I wanted all this stuff. I wanted like a new computer. I wanted the new Xbox. I wanted, super expensive cleats. I wanted like all this stuff. And it's like once you finally save that up in Bitcoin and then you look at it to buy it, you're like, man, I don't want to fucking buy that. I just rather hold the sats.
Absolutely. You start thinking, you lower your time preference. You start thinking, okay, what can I use this money for in 30 years, in 40 years? How can I build wealth that my family, my future generations is gonna enjoy, instead of like, okay, I get a new toy and I'm gonna be happy for it maybe like 2 months and then it's gonna be old. I'd rather have like my kids living a wonderful life than having a new gadget.
That's something it's a common theme amongst Bitcoiners, and it's something I really respect, is that people are willing to sacrifice part of their life now, to not have a lot of these, fancy stuff, to make a better life for when they're older and they have their own kids, or for their kids now for when they get older and they grow up, they can have an even better life.
Absolutely. It's about accumulating capital. And the thing normally people, I didn't understand as well, is capital accumulation is what raises the standard of living. It's what makes society, it's what makes our life good. If no one accumulated capital, we would be living in caves and we would hunt our food every day. But because people started to think long term, have a lower time preference, we live in this amazing society. A society which can be better, yes, but we are also blessed that we live in such a great society. And that's only come about because of accumulation of capital.
Yeah, that quote just reminded me of that story of the guy who fished every day, and he cashed one fish per day to eat, and then he sacrificed a day of fishing and didn't eat that day, but he instead used his time to build a spear, and with that spear he was able to collect 3 fish, and he was able to keep multiplying his wealth and keep taking time off from fishing to make new inventions to advance himself and catch fish easily, and improving the quality of his life. And then it just leaks out into so many different areas of your life. Is anyone else in your personal life living low time preference? Anyone in your family or friends?
Yeah, I would say my father is low time preference. But he's the kind of guy who has large like bank account. I've had talk with him, like I don't understand it. He has like a lot of money but sitting in the bank earning negative rates, and like I'm just saying, okay, we're living in this society. I know that there is printing going on of money, so it's just gonna like inflate away his purchasing power. So I've tried to like say to him, okay, maybe not Bitcoin. He's not a big Bitcoin fan. He's actually quite mad that I've been stacking so many sats. But I've just started saying, okay, then put it in the market, like buy an index fund, because that's how in this world, in this fiat world, you get rich, is by playing where there are store of values. That's in real estate or in markets. So I've just tried to say, okay, then put it in the market. But he's the kind of guy that says like it's too low time preference, like it's too risky. He thinks it risky. So in a Bitcoin world, he would be absolutely phenomenally well off financially, because he would just hold his wealth in Bitcoin, which doesn't lose value. And in a hyper Bitcoinization world, it's probably going to be deflate. So he's a victim of the fiat world, but he doesn't see it. He doesn't understand how and why he's a victim. I've tried to tell him, but he normally people don't understand why there is inflation. They say, oh, but the official number is telling us that there is 1% inflation. I've tried to tell them that, but inflation is really like how much is being printed. But they only see the official numbers, and they don't see how inflation creeps up on you. So I think normally only sees inflation when there is hyperinflation.
I have a similar experience with my dad. He is not a big fan of Bitcoin and keeps a lot of money in the bank. And it really annoys me whenever I see him come home from work and he has a bunch of like lottery tickets in his hand. And I'm thinking, like, stop playing the lottery. You're not gonna win anything big. Just like, I don't play the lottery. I put all, the money I would put into the lottery, I just put it into Bitcoin, and I guarantee you we'll outperform 99% of the lottery players, even more than 99%.
Yeah, absolutely. But on the other side, you could like make an argument that maybe that's his like entertainment, and that's how he wants to, like, he gets a quick high from that. Other people use sports or whatever for it, but that's his way of doing it. But it's okay if he like has the capital, and if it's like $20 here and there, it probably doesn't make a difference for your dad. So.
Yeah, I understand that. It gives him pleasure, and I mean, I'm sure I waste money every now and then. Well, I know I do waste money every now and then doing stupid stuff, whether it be eating out or like buying like a new shirt that I don't need or something like that he'd be like, oh, well, that's stupid.
Yeah, like every time I spend money now, after I've learned of Bitcoin, it just hurts even more. Like, it's just, I could be stacking for these fiat money. But
the absolute worst is when you have spare money and then you buy something else with it. You have no money left, and then Bitcoin just pumps out of nowhere.
Oh my God, yeah.
But this all leads me to my next question. What's your favorite thing, and what's the most amazing thing about Bitcoin?
The most amazing thing is the potential, I think, and how no one can really change Bitcoin. No one can stop Bitcoin. It has an amazing potential in that it can lower everyone's time preference. It can make society so much more efficient. The market can be so much more efficient, which means that Bitcoin can raise everyone's standard of living. The society of hyper-Bitcoinization can be so much more specialized because capital is allocated according to people's preferences. And that's all great, but if Bitcoin could be stopped by governments, that would be terrible. So I think it's amazing thing about Bitcoin is it just honey badger don't care about anyone. No one can stop them. Governments can try, but they can't. So it's amazing to have this powerful tool, and just know that no one can stop it. It's inevitable. It's a great power to feel like.
Oh yeah, one of the things that I used to be one of those skeptics, like, oh well, why can't any one authority come stop it? And then I just think back to 2017 when I think it was called like the New York Agreement happened, and all those people met behind closed doors to try and centralize and control Bitcoin. And then the miners, or not the miners, the community did the user activated soft fork, and then worked their way around it. Like, for me, that just proves like I really don't think Bitcoin can ever be taken down. I really don't. And that is really important to me. It's important to you. It's important to everyone, because we can then, put our full faith and trust in our money into this new system and exit the old dying one.
Absolutely. It's glorious. It's glorious. If I didn't know about Bitcoin, I would be very bearish, very depressed about current state of the world and where I see it going, because if politics just play its game and it's like alone in this world, it would just be more and more state and more suffering from people.
Do you
But
think you could
then
be a gold bug if you weren't into Bitcoin?
I don't really know how I would have learned about it. I don't really know how I would have fallen down the rabbit hole of gold.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I would. I think I would have. But again, you have the gold bugs. Their fantasy is that there will be like a big reset, like the financial system is gonna fall completely apart, and gold will be the safe haven. But I think that's very depressing
It is.
to think about, because people will be suffering. There will be like people in third world countries will die of like their infrastructure will fall apart, their supply chains will fall apart in a global financial crisis. So you're hoping for a reset which will cost immense suffering and immense sacrifices for people. So I think that would be very, very depressing to think about. Whereas I see Bitcoin could take over without having like big global reset.
Mm-hmm. And if we do have this big reset and we go back to a gold standard, like they said, like these gold bugs say, you're not going to want gold during a time like that. You're going to want guns and bullets and food and water.
Absolutely.
A shiny rock is one of the last things you'll want.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that it just doesn't make sense to me, and it blows my mind every time they bring up the argument, is if we were to go back to a gold standard, it's only a matter of time until we're in the same exact situation we are today.
100%. We already had a gold standard. We've already tried it.
Mm-hmm.
The fantasy has already been tried. And we've seen where that led us to central banking and to this terrible system that we have.
Human greed is always going to get the best of whoever controls the money supply. Like I know Jacko was talking about it, Jackie, the other week, and he said that if he was in that position of power near the money printer, even though he has good ethics and morals, he said even him would probably, do some bad stuff that he shouldn't be doing. And that's just the effect of being so close to the money printer. It's I don't know if it drives you crazy or with power or what, but
I completely agree. The game theory would tell you that you're gonna optimize for your best self, or like best, however best you can profit from it. You don't really care about, in the end, you don't really care about some people you've never known. You're gonna say, okay, I can profit from this. I can benefit from this role I have. And so game theory will tell you that you're gonna do it eventually. Maybe you're gonna be strong-willed in the first time, but eventually somewhere you'll be like, oh, this is too sweet, I can't mess this up. And then you just start going off. Like the next time, like as we've seen now, governments has taken so many rights from us. Eventually they say it's temporary, but eventually you'll do it again. Government is going to take these rights. They maybe give it back to us, but they'll take them again. Mm-hmm. We're going to take the sweet honey now, but we'll never do it again. But if you can print yourself money, you're going to do it no matter what.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the way I see it is whenever a government says that they're going to temporarily take away something, I just read it as permanent. Because it's like all these new stuff that's going on with like coronavirus and like forcing people to wear masks. Oh, masks are only temporary. You have to wear this muzzle only temporarily because, there's this virus going around. It's like this temporarily could be years just because you telling us to. Like the air is fucking fine. The past 2 weeks I've been walking around. I'm the only one in my town, one of the only ones in my town not wearing a mask. And people look at me like I'm fucking crazy. But then when I was walking around in a mask in like January, it was the same thing. It was just the opposite. The normies are like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like the difference in awareness and education between Bitcoiners and normies is immense. And I think it's good that we're trying to educate ourselves all the time and educate other people, because over time it'll help raise the standard of living. I mean, I don't want to say standard of living, but it'll just raise the standard of everything, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that people have to take back freedom. Like they have to realize that governments are just taking our freedoms away, left, right, and center these days. Like you see, you see now that it's become socially appropriate for governments to mandate that you cannot go outside if you don't wear a mask. Or they had a lockdown. They made everyone stay at home. They could just say, okay, everyone stay at home. That's like you. That's one of the basic rights of human beings is freedom of movement. You can, if you want to go out, you can go out. But somehow it was socially appropriate for government to take that freedom away because people feel scared. And you know, a government is never ever going to let a disaster go away like without taking power. They're always going to abuse their power, and they're going to take as much as they can.
They love striking fear into people. It's the easiest way to gain power. You know, I used to constantly think how did people like Hitler and Stalin and all these other people, how did they rise to power? Like, what the fuck were the people doing?
Yeah.
You look at today's times, what are they doing? They're wearing masks, they're staying in their pods, they're eating bugs, you know, like typical normie stuff, just let stuff fly past them all the time that are huge red flags, but they're not aware enough or educated enough to understand what's actually going on. And it's quite scary.
You just have to instill fear in people, and you can take power. Hitler blamed the Jews, said everything that's bad about this world is because of Jews. They made fear about Jews. They took power. Russia did it with capitalism. Everything that's wrong with you, all your suffering is because of capitalism. He took all the power, and now they have this excuse to say everything. You just give us all the power because there's this corona thing that's gonna kill everyone if you don't do it. Like it's gonna be massive suffering for everyone if you don't do it, and it's just temporary. Oh, we're just gonna be temporary here, but you just know that we have now given society has now given government the right to say everyone has to stay at home, and that's big extreme. But eventually, you know that okay, is there a second wave of this corona? Okay, we are gonna make everyone stay at home again. And some countries had it for like months, where people were not allowed to do anything else than their essential stuff, and that's just so unnatural to human beings, which is created so much suffering for people who's maybe depressed to not could go out and see people, go out and see nature. So people say, okay, but we have to do something because Corona is going to kill everyone. So we have to do something. Let's give governments all this power to dictate our life. But on the other side, you don't see all the people suffering because we give people all this power.
Like, humans are social creatures. You know, we need social interaction. Even if we go out to do stuff and we don't even like talk to anyone, just the feeling of being around other strangers is even like a good feeling. You know what I mean? Like being social with other people, being, you know, feeling like you're a part of something more is something really important. And I remember I used to watch TV the past few months before I go to bed, just relaxing. And there was always this one commercial that came on that I hated, and it was, I don't know the name of the lady. She's some TV news host, but like the music was kind of depressing, like a piano or something. And she was like, "You need to stay at home. We're all in this together. Like so, like isolate together, or like isolate. You know, like stop forcing that down stupid people's throat. You know what I mean? Like I hate that stuff."
Even, but even the thing now is, okay, you're allowed to go outside, but you have to stay 1 or 2 meters away. You can't shake hands, and you have to have a mask. It's so unnatural for people. It's completely uncomfortable that you can't be close to other people. That's our way of living. We have to be close to other people, or we will be depressed. We can't even shake a hand, which has been our culture, our norm, some norm in the world for so many years. And to talk with another human being who has a mask on, you can't see their mouth. It's so unnatural, and someone like, I don't understand how people don't understand how unnatural it is for human and how much suffering it has created. I even know, like, if sometimes I have this situation where I'm maybe like half a meter away from someone, and you can see on the face that they're like judging you and trying to move away from you. And that's what we call bullying in school. We say that, oh, you have to play together. But here, everyone just sees you and then they walk away from you. And that's so unnatural for us humans. And so psychological, it's really damaging for humans to not have social interactions.
They always talk about coronavirus deaths and how much, the new updated numbers of how many people have it, but they never shared the number of people who've committed suicide, who have, from loneliness or depression, people who are going hungry and can't afford to feed their families or can't eat, or, loads and loads of different, terrible stuff. Like, no one cares about that. They just care about what's, man in suit on Fox News said Chinese virus is bad. Oh no, like, let me stay inside my house for 7 months. Like, I'm sure there are people out there who have not left their house since like March, February, April. I'm pretty sure there are definitely people out there who are just hunkered down, not doing anything.
Absolutely.
But we are a little bit past the 30-minute mark, so we're going to wrap this up. But I just have one more question for you. What is your price prediction for New Year's 2021? And what's your price prediction for Bitcoin at the fourth halving?
Are we talking on the date or in this period? How high has it gone?
Whatever you want. You could say how high. Let's go with how high you think it would go.
I feel like it's gonna be over 100K before 2021. And if I'm really bullish, I'm gonna say 400. Let's go.
400.
Let's be bullish.
Okay.
Before the next halving, I could see multiple millions. Let's say 2.5 million.
Okay, I like that.
We're bullish today. I'm very bullish. This talk has made me bullish. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on, man. I really enjoyed. I enjoy talking with you every day in our group chat and on Discord. But it's really nice to have you on here and get more people to know you. And yeah, I think you have a lot of good things to say. I think you have a lot of good opinions and ideas, and I really think other people should be listening to you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, guys. I'll see you guys next week with a brand new episode. Peace.